Hello everyone, this is JointheLightsideTV with your host Michael. Today I'm going to provide some commentary for the recent Liberal convention that was hosted in Ontario, I believe just a matter of days ago. So this material is relatively fresh as of the date of this publication, and we're just going to go through this minute by minute, and we're going to provide some comments as we go. So without further ado, let's begin.
We care about equality. We care about reconciliation. We care about justice.
Was he thinking about that when he arbitrarily fired 50% of his caucus and then just, for whatever reason, brought in an equitable standard to which he just seemingly randomly hired just like half his staff being women without really checking their credentials to see if they're even like qualified? For example, like Christina Freeland, she has a degree in Russian literature. Where's her financial background to actually be dealing with the fiscal policy of what she needs to be doing? So it's idiotic policies like this which I deeply question, especially when they have communist undertones to them. Make no mistake, I absolutely hate communism. And the reason being is that it always equalizes downward. Do you want an equal share of the piece of rubble and trash that is beneath your feet? That's where this is going. Let us continue.
It has never been more clear that everything is interwoven. But again, conservative politicians just don't get that. They don't connect the dots. They either say investing in Canadians is a waste of money, or that our policies are too woke.
That is completely strawmanned. No sane, and I'm pretty sure that the majority of them are sane. No, absolutely none. Like, no conservative members ever said that. That is completely strawmanning the entire thing. This guy is absolutely insane. Let's keep going.
Too woke? Hey, Pierre Poilievre, it's time for you to wake up.
Yeah, sure. It's time for him to wake up from the fucking slumbering country that you've left us with. That, like, it is absolutely unbelievable just how much delusion that this man is in. It is utterly preposterous. He has left us with the worst economic conditions that Canada's ever seen, and probably at this point, like, the worst it ever will. And yeah, his policies are so bloody critical constructivist, which is to say neo-Marxism, that it almost hurts. This is just so unbelievable. And I gotta say, too, that these people that are standing up for ovation for him, some of these people, they're going to be the first to see just how terrible, like, if for some reason that Trudeau is sworn back into office, probably some of these people are going to be the first in the proverbial firing line. Now, make no mistake, I'm not calling for violence. That is the exact last thing that I want. But these sorts of intentionally divisive attitudes and phrasing that Justin is using, he is intentionally pitting people against one another to gain even more radical sympathy for his idiotic policies that are dredging us further into the dirt. at this point, if we're to be dredged any further into the dirt, there would be absolutely no way to ever find us. Even given like an infinite time span, you just never will.
Wake up. Wake up to the fact that a gender-balanced cabinet is a good thing, and that women fully participating in the workforce is a good thing.
When did Pierre ever say that was a bad thing? You will never find anything on record that says that it is terrible to have women in the workforce. That is so utterly preposterous. And it's all about whether if you're actually fit for the line of work. It doesn't matter what skin color you are, what sexual orientation, what gender you are. Like, it really does not matter at all. The question is, can you do the work? And so far, this liberal government has so utterly failed us, and that we're, as I said before, in the worst economic conditions that we've ever seen. And we can't go blaming that on COVID anymore in this pandemic that is now like about 2 years over. Like, we can no longer be blaming like this sort of crap on. Like, we have to pull our pants up and actually do something about it rather than pandering to minority groups, which, by the way, most of them, they absolutely despise this guy. Just saying. Anyway.
Something to snub when he gets a shout out from the President of the United States in our House of Commons. Wake up to the fact that under our government, fewer persons with disabilities are facing poverty, and in fact, Canada's poverty rates has been cut in half.
That is an absolute lie. All you have to do is literally go to any downtown center, and you'll see just how rampant the homelessness is. And, oh man, this man just... he angers so many people. So many. Let's rewind that back to what he was saying there.
Wake up to the fact that under our government, fewer persons with disabilities are facing poverty, and
everybody in Canada is facing more poverty, including people with disabilities. And now you're offering those same people with disabilities a permanent solution out from that problem. Do you catch my drift? Let's keep going.
In fact, Canada's poverty rates has been cut in half since 2015.
And I'm pretty sure that was not really from your direct involvement. I'm also just going to say that.
Wake up to the fact that more moms are building careers because we've made childcare more affordable.
What does that even mean? Like, the cost of everything has been driven up by tenfold. And no thanks to many of your ridiculous policies that you've enacted. Oh yeah, you've also frozen the bank accounts of some of those same mothers, by the way, for having viewpoints that are against yours. Guy's so bloody smug. Pisses me off.
And by the way, when we see that women's participation in the economy has reached an all-time high, let me tell you something. $10 a day childcare is not woke policy, it's economic policy.
So where exactly is this taking place? And I'm pretty sure that these childcare facilities that provide this sort of low cost, they probably have to apply for it. And I would like to actually hear how many of these childcare centers actually have this afforded to them. And I can tell you right now, it is certainly not impactful enough where we're actually seeing the benefits from it, because everything else is phenomenally high. The cost of living hasn't been this high in many generations. There are always followers to a tyrant like this. You know who else that they cheered for super loudly back in World War II? A certain European figure, which he also enforced programs that were like the MAID program. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Now, we all know that some of our opponents will try to clip some of my words out of context tomorrow to make it sound as if we think that everything is...
That's hilarious. He does that all the time, just saying.
It's just fine. But this is not what I'm saying. Too many Canadians are struggling. Now let's be honest.
Oh, it took you that long to realize it? It's only been a few years, that's all.
It just doesn't look very serious to have the leader of the official opposition exchanging memes with billionaires in the U.S. to undermine Canadian independent institutions.
I don't even know what he said about that.
Canadians, especially in our small towns across the country, rely on the CBC for their local news.
I find that incredibly hard to believe, especially since it is a propaganda arm. When you have a news outlet that literally receives near $1 billion in funding from the government, that is a propaganda arm. And if the Conservatives did the same thing, I would find it deeply problematic too.
This is Canada. It is not broken, but we're liberals, and we know that in Canada, better is always possible.
You're not a liberal, you're a bloody communist. All your policies state that, especially with the wealth reallocation that is taking place. Yeah, you're progressive, all right. And leading us into the blender, that's where you're leading.
This is why we have to be at our best. Canadians are counting on us. No,
I'm counting on my family and my friends. I'm expecting you, Justin, to utterly destroy our country as you've been doing for the last few years. You've done nothing but divide Canadians. You've done nothing but make living conditions far worse than they need to be, enacting these ridiculous green policies which we cannot actually back, which will take decades to actually move into. I'm not against green energy. Let me say that right now. I'm not a climate change denier. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. All these other things I'm sure some people are going to try to label me with. I'm not denying any of these theories. What I am denying, however, is that we need to be doing this within like a 5-year span. Do you actually think that we're able to manage that? You know how long it took for our civilization to be developed into this point? You don't think it's going to take a while for us to transition into green energy without literally murdering like millions of people? And I say murder because the absolute neglect which is coming from our government and having these disgustingly long lines into the food banks, which are underfed. So people are going underfed, undercared for, because now they're enforcing these idiotic policies, which is basically enabling drug use, which has gone even worse in BC. It was already like at terrible levels, but now it's just getting worse. All you have to do is go down to the downtown east side in Vancouver. You can find out for yourself.
Positive vision for the future, because the alternative is too bleak. Pierre Poilievre's populism, his slogans and buzzwords are not...
All you use is buzzwords. You just use these completely empty phrasing like, we're going for justice. It's like, yeah, talk is cheap, man. And you're allowing so many criminals to go off of these terrible crimes that have been committed over the last, like, even just the last few weeks. Like, the utter neglect is just so disturbing. And perhaps you could rationalize that Pierre Poilievre is in some phrasing a populist, but that's because he actually likes Canada and he wants to actually like lift up the people within here by empowering the everyday worker rather than taxing the living crap out of them, even just for basic modes of transport. And if this idiotic government like expects all households to transition into electric cars by 2030, well, they have another thing coming. Like, we don't have the infrastructure for that, nor can we support it right now. It would take decades to actually implement that responsibly, so we wouldn't be leaving like a mass number of people behind. People can barely afford like fossil fuel vehicles right now, let alone like having to spend like minimum 60 grand on a bloody electric vehicle, unless you get like one of those small ones, but then you start looking at it still being like 30 grand. It's like, yeah, I would love to go electric if we actually like had the means to support it, but we're far from that right now.
Serious solutions to the serious challenges we're facing. Supporting illegal occupations that blockaded our streets and borders.
Not illegal. The protests that were in Canada, like at the Capitol building, the Freedom Convoy, not illegal. Yeah, maybe by your completely illegitimate committee, which was already biased from the start because you asked for previously affiliated like parliamentary member or what have you to sit in and weigh in on the judgment of the whole debacle. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Orders for weeks, parroting the talking points of the gun lobby.
Not parroting, and nor can he prove that. Like, it's a right of like Canadians to be able to bear arms for things like hunting, and if they're responsible with their firearms, there shouldn't be any problem with that.
Partnering with a group that said it was a myth that residential schools robbed Indigenous children of their childhood.
I'm not sure about that
Keeping
one. Maybe he's right.
MPs in his leadership team after they were happy to dine with a xenophobic German far-right politician.
To which I'm pretty sure he like spoke out against that, and he actually made amends for that, saying that he does not support that person's views, and found out about it after the fact, which if what he is saying is true, that is terrible, and I'll make a concession to that. But there is such thing as making mistakes. He should be more than well aware of that. He's made his fair share.
That's the exact opposite of responsible leadership.
So I'm going to mostly leave the podcast to there. I would love to hear your guys' take on this whole thing. Maybe you completely and utterly disagree with me, and maybe you think I'm a terrible person for thinking so. Let's weigh on it in the discussion. Maybe you do feel like me. How about we try and form that community that I've been talking about for the last few weeks, and I should actually get on. I've created the Discord chat. I am going to see about putting it in the description of this video and down below. And if you could please like the video, if you did in fact like it, comment if you have something that you feel like you want to weigh in on the discussion, especially with censorship coming in. Now is more important than ever for us to exercise our right to free speech, because we are still living in Canada after all. We should be able to exercise this right to free speech. And if you did like this content, please subscribe, and I sincerely hope that I'll be able to see you all in the near future. Thanks again, and I hope you all have a great day. Please take care of one another, and especially your family. Keep them close, and I hope you all have a great week. Thank you.